Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, we're going to be looking at a new Pupitar card. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're not talking about Tyranitar. Tyranitar is not our focus for today. We're talking about Pupitar. Now, if you're wondering about Tyranitar, great news. It's got giant HP. It does lots of damage. I have done a video about it. I will pop a link in the description. If your Tyranitar itch needs to be scratched, I got yo back. But ladies and gentlemen, that is not the Tyranitar about which we are talking today. We're going Pupitar. Because honestly, this Pupitar is like really, really good. Like, I like it way more than I like Tyranitar good. And you should know by now that essentially I'm only going to be showing you pre-evolutions, evolving Pokemon on this channel where they are good enough to really warrant getting their own video. Pupitar absolutely does. So, the weakness to grass here, I'm pretty unconcerned. Golisopod will do 60 with the first attack, including weakness, if they didn't come active this turn. Tapu Bulu will do 30 as long as they've only got one energy attached. To be blunt, when you're grass weak, you're looking for 70 HP. This boy's got 80. We good. Retreat cost of 1 is really nice. Firstly, it's low. Secondly, escape board comes in. So that's really nice. The HP of 80 is fine. I mean, look, we've already talked about the fact that it survives a bunch of the numbers here. And that really is the key thing. I mean, if we look at something like a Buzzwole, they can get a KO. But they will need both their once per game Beast Energy and their once per game Diancie Prism Star. Although I suppose they could use Lizia to search them both out in order to get a KO on this. So actually, for what you are, your HP's pretty good. And you're a fighting Pokemon. So you get access to Diancie Prism Star to do an extra 20 damage here. Now, we've lost a lot of our tricks on fighting Pokemon, like Strong Energy, which has gone away. But you still got Diancie Prism Star. And you're still hitting weakness against Zoroark, which is awesome. And I think the new Incineroar looks crazy good. And I think the new Ampharos looks really good. So actually, I am expecting that hitting for a fighting weakness is going to remain good into the future. I'll pop links to Ampharos and Incineroar videos in the description. So, what have we got here? Double colorless energy, 30 damage. If your opponent has exactly one prize card remaining, this attack does 90 more damage. Now, you can do this for a double colorless energy. It's a single energy attachment. It doesn't have to be for a double colorless energy. 2 colorless energy is in and of itself a fairly cheap attack cost that you should be able to hit. But if you really want to, you can use a double colorless energy here. And I am absolutely loving this. Now, I have one tiny reservation. The tiny reservation is that you're hitting 120. And we often talk about the divide between 120 and 130. And Baby Buzz, hey Nick, is one reason this really comes out here. 120 is not enough to KO a Baby Buzzwole, which means you'll be 10 damage short. Now, the good news is it is enough to KO stuff like Garbodor that only have 120, and the other good news is that Diancie Prism Star will put you up to 140 and get the KO. The reservation comes in that if your opponent has KO'd Diancie Prism Star, then you're not going to have that to do the damage at the end. The other thing that really sucks is that Shining Lugia, which is seeing a fair amount of play at the moment, also has 130 HP. But it has a resistance to fighting, so even if you are hitting for 120, and even if you use Diancie Prism Star, essentially Diancie balances out the resistance and you still only hit 120. It's a little bit sad, if I'm perfectly honest with you, ladies and gentlemen. There's nothing we can do about it. It's just a little bit sad. But the damage here generally is good, especially when you build in Diancie Prism Star. And Diancie Prism Star is super important for this. Because, first of all, we've already mentioned the 120 to 140 with Buzzwole. But if you're hitting for weakness, you're up against a Zoroark, you're hitting 240 with weakness, you good. Life is happy. And if you find yourself against an Ampharos, well, that's fine. They've got 240 HP. You're getting a one-hit KO. Life is happy. This is what I told you in the Ampharos video about how 250 would be better. 240 and 250 is another one of those like 120 and 130, where it is sometimes the difference between getting a KO and not getting a KO. But then you might come across something like an Incineroar, and I am still all aboard the Incineroar hype train. But Incineroar's up to 250, which means ordinarily you'll hit 240, you won't get a KO, boo, hiss, etc. Well, that's fine here, because you've got Diancie Prism Star. And let's not forget, this is a non-GX Pokemon. And a non-GX Pokemon means you can use Shrine of Punishment. 1 damage on each Pokemon EX and GX between turns, so even though, let's say you're not hitting for weakness, and you're against some random GX, well, you're ordinarily hitting for 120 here. Then you add a Diancie Prism Star, and you're up to 140. Then you add a Choice Band, and you're up to 170. So all of a sudden, Tapu Lele going down. Then Time Shrine of Punishment comes in. 1 damage counter from this, you're up to 180. Down goes something like Rayquaza or Tapu Bulu. And then if you can get 2 of these, although that won't obviously all be in one go, that's fine. You're then up to 190. You've got Buzzwole GX. So to put it really bluntly, you're going to be able to get up to GX KOs pretty easily for a single energy on a non-GX. That's really, really good. You should be KOing most things here, and yeah, there'll be some things like Shining Lugia where you're just that tiny bit short. And there will be some things here where you need a couple of turns of Shrine of Punishment. But outside of that, I really don't see much of a downside here. And I know this is a once per game thing. I know it's when your opponent has exactly 1 prize card remaining. But you're going to be playing a non-GX deck. You're going to be playing a deck full of single prize Pokemon. So if you don't play any GXs, your opponent cannot go from 2 prizes down to 0. If you play a non-GX deck, think things like Garbodor Buzzwole with Shrine, or Malamar Shining Lugia, for instance. They do sometimes play GXs, but they don't always put them down. Your opponent has got to be in the position where they have exactly 1 prize remaining. They can't get around it. And I'm totally fine with playing this as just a once per game kind of thing. Now, to be clear, it doesn't have to be once per game. So let's say you're against a Zoroark deck. If you've got 4 prizes remaining, your opponent's got 1. If you use this to KO a Zoroark, okay, it's their turn. But if they then cannot get a KO on your Pupitar, then they've still got 1 prize remaining. You can KO something else the next turn and essentially keep going. Maybe they grab a Zoroark, but they can't find a double colorless energy, and they're not actually able to finish out the game. I like this. And in a non-GX deck, you're probably playing stuff like Tapu Koko or Latios. Maybe one, maybe both. There's a good chance you're playing double colorless energy anyway. I think this is a great, great attacker. And at this stage, I do need to give a shout out to Larvitar. Now, Larvitar is one of those, again, it's a pre-evolution, it's an evolving Pokemon, but it was featured in Shintaro Ito, the 2016 World Champion, his 17th place list at the Tokyo Champions League, a 1,300 person tournament. I'll pop a link to that video in the description. And that's a really good attacker in its own right as well. If the defending Pokemon has free damage counters on, which a lot of the time they will, especially if you're using stuff like Latios or Tapu Koko to spread a bunch of damage, then you're actually doing 80 damage for a double colorless energy. And again, we got that same double colorless energy cost. You don't even need to play Tyranitar. In a dedicated non-GX deck, or in fact anything that's playing double colorless, Larvitar and Pupitar here are really, really good. Yeah, Pupitar's really specific, but I don't really care about that. I don't care how specific it is. There will be games it wins you the game. If you're in a non-GX deck and you're down to 1 prize each, maybe you don't have a stage 1 Garbodor. Maybe you don't have free energy on a Buzzwole. Well, in comes Pupitar for a double colorless. And like I say, it works so well with the Larvitar. The Larvitar will be coming in Lost Thunder, incidentally. And it works so well with that one that we've got a really good pair. And there isn't a Tyranitar that can really keep up with them at the moment. It's ridiculous. Although, as a side note, these are the Larvitar and Pupitar to use if you're playing a Tyranitar deck, because they can be really good in their own right. And it's kind of funny how Tyranitar GX is weak to fighting, so actually, one of the best counters to Tyranitar GX may well be Larvitar and Pupitar. Fun times. I'm going to be giving this between 3 and 4 Wassies, but don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. Larvitar has already seen play in a very successful deck. I expect that to carry on. Incidentally, it was played with Decidueye, so you could drop damage and then do the extra. And I expect this to see play in a very similar way. So there we go. But maybe you disagree with me, in which case, great news, there's a comment section, go nuts, but please do remember the rule. Be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.